So arguably one of the biggest leakers in Nintendo's history has just been effectively shut down and figured out in terms of how they were getting their information. And yes, we are talking about the infamous Pyoro, who it seems like their good days of leaking have come to an end. It seems like Nintendo might be able to zero in on just how they got their information, and whether or not they are in danger directly of Nintendo finding them out remains to be seen. But this is a very interesting unfolding situation, because if you've kept up with Nintendo leaks and rumors, you probably know that over the course of history, we have started to reliably count on Pyoro to effectively leak almost every big announcement in an upcoming Nintendo presentation, or even just surprise game drops that they've done on social media about a day or two ahead of time. So we kind of go into things almost knowing the entirety of the meat of the direct, which I have been conflicted on this whole time. I like to report on leaks and rumors, but it's kind of fun when there's some mystery around if they're true or not, and not just having an entire event spoiled. But I'll save my opinion for the back half of the story. What is more interesting is the fact that it seems as though Pyoro's exact sources, and whether or not it's them directly working on this Nintendo website backend, or if it's somebody that works for them and giving them that information, the question is no longer do they have some kind of direct high up Nintendo contact that works at the corporate office or some kind of marketing branch in Japan or even Nintendo of America. It's nothing like that. This is way more like website data driven. It's now been uncovered, and Pyoro has actually confirmed this themselves at this point. So the question is not really if it's legit info, it's just that, yeah, this is what's been going on. And it's very interesting that Nintendo has effectively plugged these holes, because you probably realize that walking into this direct, there was a lot less certainty coming from Pyoro around game announcements. We did, of course, have that tweet the day before the direct was announced from Pyoro hinting that a direct would be announced, like saying, "Where is the Nintendo Direct?" in a Japanese translation. Well, the day after he posted that, yes, of course, we did get the announcement for the direct, and you then thought the floodgates would open with a bunch of first-party big leaks like we've seen them do in the past. And no, surprisingly, it was smaller stuff like Ace Attorney, Metal Slug, and some summertime game that was announced over in Japan, not even over in this region of the world. And it was really light on anything first party, and there was even some questions about why Pyoro was holding back some of that info. Considering their reputation, we know they have essentially all this info ahead of time. And when one user asked on Twitter, do you have any info on first party games, or was that source plugged? Pyoro responds, it will be light on first party stuff, but I expect some surprises. Now, you may or may not have been a huge fan of the direct, like I personally was. I had a ton of big announcements for me that I was personally hyped for in that presentation, but the term light on first party announcements has not come up from any corner of the internet. Even if you think that some of your favorite franchises or game projects that you wanted to see there weren't there, it was still very much a heavily first party focused showcase. And so that tweet was kind of one big red flag that, well, hang on, that wasn't a light presentation on first-party Nintendo content. So has Pyoro's sources been gotten? We've seen different reports that there was a YouTube backend employee that was, or a Google contractor rather, that was leaking out information about games presentations that have essentially been handled. So there was a lot of speculation around that being Pyoro's source. But one point I've made on this channel, and many others online, and even Pyoro themselves, have said, well, they've leaked things like the price point of Nintendo World Championship. That was not included in a trailer that was uploaded to YouTube. And we also saw them leak Everybody 1-2 Switch, which was another first-party Nintendo game that was a social media announcement that didn't even have a trailer to promote the game. So it didn't seem likely that it was tied to YouTube, and now we know it's more tied to Nintendo's internal backend of their own websites, which does maybe put Pyoro in some direct danger, or at least their source that has been revealing the stuff to them, because it seems like they're narrowing in. As you can see, the following post, which really outlines everything over on Reset Era, where it reads, a plausible explanation on Pyoro's leak source. It seems there might be an explanation as to why Pyoro was acting weirdly vague about this direct. A Reset Era user have come up with a plausible theory that Pyoro or his source might be working on Nintendo's website backend. The user first pointed out the things that he did ultimately leak, Metal Slug, Ace Attorney Investigations, both of those games have web pages up on Nintendo's website ready to go. They haven't uploaded any such web page for the major first party direct announcements today. Usually sites tend to go up shortly after announcements like this, so the fact that it's been 2 hours and no web pages are up is weird. They further go on to say, I've done a bit more research. I'm 100% confident now that's how he got his info. The Natsumon content that Pyoro leaked also has a store page up on the Japanese site, and as far as I'm aware, the Japanese Nintendo eShop / sites have not been updated with the new batch of games announced by Nintendo. I have not seen Nintendo delay putting up pages for their games in a long time, so I think that's where Pyoro was getting their info from. All 4 of the leaks have store pages up on Japan, and in the case of Metal Slug / Ace Attorney in the US as well. None of the other major stuff in the Direct has pages up. In my opinion, Pyoro wasn't lying when they said YouTube backend wasn't the source. It was the website / eShop data getting uploaded ahead of time. I distinctly recall pages for stuff like Endless Ocean / Another Code going up almost instantly, and it explains how Pyoro knew the price point of Nintendo World Championship. It also explains why Pyoro mentioned Reynatus and specifically highlighted the story DLCs and demo, all of which can be found on that game's Japanese store page. Maybe the reason Pyoro mentioned 2D Zelda Remake and not a brand new 2D Zelda is because the pages for the Nintendo Switch Lite Zelda Edition were ready before the Direct aired and went up fast, and it intuitively makes sense that there would be a Zelda game alongside the release of said console. Also, the image on the page shows a screenshot of the new Zelda without a logo, so maybe Pyoro jumped the gun and saw the image and instantly assumed it was for a 2D Zelda remake since it looked very similar to Link's Awakening. I think that the source that got killed this directly was simply Nintendo not allowing eShop / website data to be created until after the Direct has long aired, with the only exceptions being hardware data and third-party stuff that has pre-orders or is stealth dropping. Expect that if Pyoro is going to leak anything concretely in the future, it will be stuff that's stealth dropping / opening pre-orders as soon as possible to the point of needing a web page to go up, provided of course that Pyoro still has access to that data somehow. Now then, when a user was essentially calling out Pyoro for the jig kind of being up for them, he says, "You're cooked after this. Nintendo figured out where the leaks were coming from and tested it today, and now they know for certain. Given how compartmentalized their corporate structure is, I bet they already have Pyoro or their source narrowed down to about half a dozen people." And then Pyoro replies with a GIF shaking his head, "Yes, agreed." Now then this user asks if they will delete their account, and Pyoro says they will if the polls show more yes than no votes, and they have indeed created a poll where they're asking if they should delete their account. This was before this theory was essentially confirmed. So the long and short of it is, we knew Nintendo was not a fan of having their information leak out early, and they essentially caught wind of how it was happening and put measures in place to essentially stop any of their big first-party stuff from leaking out from this Direct presentation. And I will say, again, as somebody who likes to report on these leaks and rumors and have fun speculation around them, I do not necessarily like having a Direct entirely spoiled, because it is a magical moment when you don't know what to expect and you see a brand new top-down Zelda pop up, or you see Metroid Prime 4 for the first time and we had no clue if that was going to be in the Direct. All of those were very big moments for me at this most recent Direct, and while I'm still waiting on DK to get a fresh new game, I am very happy to play DK Returns from the Wii in the meantime, with some 3DS levels thrown in there. Like, it was all a great Direct for me. I liked knowing less about it personally, so if this is the end of Pyoro, at least for major first-party announcements from Directs, I don't necessarily think it is all a bad thing. But when Nintendo plugs one hole, you might see another pop up, because in this same leaking conversation, I do want to quickly highlight that it has come to light that a particular user that is not Pyoro, but rather a different account over on Reset Era, did leak 2 of the major first-party announcements before they had gone up. This individual goes by the name of Ada Wong and said the following: "I'm betting on a top-down Legend of Zelda game starring Zelda and a new Mario and Luigi title. Their brothership is too iconic, you know." And this went up the timestamp of Monday at 6:33 p.m. So that is the day before the Nintendo Direct presentation aired. So we might have yet another account to pay attention to for certain things. Papagenos actually did get the Legend of Zelda hint right, even though it sounded like he went back and forth on if that was a leak or speculation. Well, clearly that initial tweet that he put out that said this is a hint, when he was talking about a 2D Zelda game being in the works with Zelda as the main playable character, he obviously has a source on the inside. And you have your usuals like Nate the Hate and many others who have gotten some of the smaller things at this Direct right, but nobody really had the major first party spoilers ahead of time other than this Ada Wong account who nobody knew to pay attention to because of the fact that I don't think they've leaked anything before this, but those are two big games that nobody was predicting Mario and Luigi to come back after 9 years, and nobody was for sure predicting, other than Papagenos, really saying a top-down 2D Zelda, brand new Zelda, was for sure going to be a thing other than that Papagenos tease. So very limited information being out there around some of the big first party announcements at this showcase. And while Metroid Prime 4 being 2025 was being teased by Nate the Hate, it also was not concrete that it would show up as the show closer of this event. So it looks like we're probably going to be relatively blind going into directs going forward, other than maybe some third-party announcements. And essentially the days of Pyoro accurately leaking most of the big announcements from any Nintendo presentation might indeed be behind us. So that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. What do you think about all of these unfolding pieces of evidence and Pyoro just essentially confirming it themselves, saying that yeah, that's indeed how they're getting their information? We don't know if it's them directly or a source that they're tied to, but what do you think of all that unfolding and Nintendo actually taking steps to not create web pages until way after the direct has aired? Do you think that that was indeed done in response to figuring out and narrowing down where this could have been coming from, and that's Nintendo's strategy to combat it, and that's ultimately what won out? Because that's pretty much what I think has happened. And what do you think about this new Ada Wong account popping up over on Reset Era claiming that the new top-down Zelda and the Mario and Luigi title would be there? And are you a fan of accounts like this that leak information ahead of time, or would you rather keep everything under wraps until Nintendo officially confirms and makes the announcements themselves? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.